There are decades when nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen. Artificial intelligence has taken the internet by storm, revolutionizing the way we communicate, work, and learn. From utilizing ChatGPT for essays to governing entire companies, AI is clearly reshaping the internet as we know, but with this newfound power comes great responsibility. It's time to understand what AI truly means for the future of work, education, and the next generation. Welcome at the AI Dilemma. Well, happy Monday, everyone. Welcome at Metaverse Mentors. This is your host, Sami Badawi, as always. And also a happy new year, as this is the first episode of 2023. With the second guest that we had last year as the first guest, Mark for Rijmenam. And today we're going to talk about a topic that has got all of our attention recently in the technology space, which is ChatGPT. And what I'm interested in, last year we had the metaverse, we had VR, AR, Web3, and currently it seems like ChatGPT conquered the internet and is key in the mainstream media. And what do you think, Mark, about all this ChatGPT? Are we following the typical hype cycle where all our expectations are kind of inflated and the real underlying technology, is nice, but the long-term stuff has to be questioned? Or where are you on the spectrum?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me again, Samir. It's great to be back on your show, and Happy New Year to you too. So it's been a fascinating past couple of months. ChatGPT came sort of out of nowhere for a lot of people, and I reached, I think, 1 million users in 5 days, which is pretty insane. And in the past month and a half, no, not even a month, in the past month, the amount of applications, the amount of experiments that I've seen on the internet with ChatGPT is just absolutely crazy. I myself did an experiment, so I wrote a book, my 5th book, in 5 days with ChatGPT about future technologies that are going to define our future. Technologies that were recommended by ChatGPT, which I should cover in the book. I then edited it with AI, and I had the cover designed with Stable Diffusion, so another generative AI tool. So it's I practice what I preach, and I use AI to understand how it's going to define our future. And I think generative AI is really is really brought AI into the limelight. Into all of a sudden, everyone is using AI, and everyone is experimenting with this technology. And I expect that this year in 2023 we can expect a lot more developments. It's the fact that you see. GPT-4 is coming out probably in the next couple of months, which has as the rumors say, 100 trillion parameters versus the 175 billion of GPT-3. Google is, together with DeepMind, is launching the ChatGPT competitor, and everyone is just jumping on this bandwagon. And the fact that it has an open API where you can tap into, and you can use it to create other applications is just fascinating. And I think the number of applications that we can expect in the coming months will be crazy, and it's fascinating to see. It's also scary to see how generative AI is going to have a big impact on our lives. We see this already happening in education, where many teachers have no idea what's happening to them. Where a lot of kids at high school, I think predominantly, are using ChatGPT to make their homework, which I don't think is a very good thing, but it also hopefully forces education to change. So you see there's a lot of stuff happening. So I don't think it's a hype. I think it's been something that's been building up for years and years, and all of a sudden, just like any exponential technology, it bursts into society, and it has a big impact.
What do you think that you already touched upon education, and simultaneously you said it's really fascinating, but it's also kind of intimidating at the same time how fast these are impacting the industry. Which industries or jobs or professional activities will be most dramatically impacted by this, you think?
Well, I think that's still a bit difficult to see, but you can see that any creative space, content marketing, communications. You can see that this is already having an influence, where people use ChatGPT, for example, to create press releases or to create very low quality blog posts to hopefully, as people think, push their SEO, which I don't think will work, but that's a different story. You see, architecture, where people use an architecture to come up with new designs. I think in the end, at the moment, as ChatGPT stands, it's not the holy grail. It will not change everything that we see, but it is a tool. It's an advanced tool that we also need to know and understand and learn how to deal with it and how to work with this tool. Of course, this can all change next week when GPT-4 comes out, and because the rumors I've heard, is that it's really, really, really advanced. So it's I'm very curious to see what's going to happen there.
So what have the takeaways been when you were writing a book in 5 days in regards of the limitations and possibilities of this kind of mechanism? So my book Future Visions, where the title is also created by ChatGPT, for me, it was a fascinating experiment to see what is possible with off-the-shelf technology, and a lot is possible, but not everything. So what I did with this book, so I asked ChatGPT to suggest different technologies that are going to define our future. Came up with a list. I added a few of my own technologies, and then for each technology, I asked, okay, now I'm going to write a book about this technology, a chapter. Tell me the questions that I need to ask you in order to write this chapter. So I get a whole list of questions, and I then put those questions into ChatGPT, got the answers, did follow-up questions if need be, and literally copy-pasted the text into the document. I didn't change a word. I might have changed the order of sentences to make it more readable, but that's all the editing that I did myself. After that, I used Grammarly to edit it from a grammar perspective. You can't really edit from like a true editor that I had with my other books. But from a grammar perspective, it was edited for clarity and for typos and spelling errors and that kind of things. And then I asked ChatGPT, okay, now you've written the book, give me a title of the book. And then I asked, give me a subtitle of the book. And I said, well, now you have done that, describe the cover of this book. And I used that description, I plugged it into Stable Diffusion to get the cover design. And then as a joke, I finished off with, well, now write a recommendation of this book, which I added to the cover. So my main lessons for this is that, as I said, it's not the holy grail. It helps really if you want to create, if you have a writer's block or so, it helps you. But if I compare my 5th book, Future Visions, with my 4th book, Step into the Metaverse, Future Visions is a lot less in depth. It's a lot more, how do you say that? Superficial, I would say. The book Step into the Metaverse, which I wrote myself, every word of it has a lot. Is more storytelling, has more highs and lows, and it draws you more in. This book stays at the surface level. It doesn't really go into depth. There's a bit of repetition in it. So it's good. It's readable. It's definitely readable. But it's not as good as my previous books. Fortunately, thank God. Having said that, it's still a great tool to help you with writing a book. If you want to write a book, but you still want to write it yourself, it can help you move faster. But ChatGPT also produced a lot of nonsense. When I asked it how has, for example, AI and robotics converged, tell me the history of that. It said that in the 1980s, AI and robotics resulted in self-driving cars that changed transportation. If only that was the case, unfortunately, that's obviously not the case. So there is also a bit of nonsense in it. And a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, for the fun of it, I asked ChatGPT about myself and which academic papers have I written, it was correct that it said that I had written 3 papers, but it came up with completely non-existing academic papers.
which I thought was really fascinating. So it's it shows it definitely has a lot of limitations, but it's a tool, and you should use it as such. And if you do that, I think you can really benefit from it.
What it makes me think about is the following. Is there kind of a skyscraper or API that can analyze a document on its authenticity if it's been made by a human being or an AI? I think there is, because why I'm asking, for authors or for subject matter experts or content creators, I can imagine that this leads to an explosion of information, which normally I would be interested in, but now I'm already kind of skeptical, like, oh, perhaps now 70% of the LinkedIn posts are created by an AI. So how well thought through is this kind of content? I'd rather go read a book and just be on social media for fun, but not for intellectual education or something. What do you think?
100%, and that's a very good point. And I think it's I believe that OpenAI is working on creating a watermark, but then to what extent does this watermark works? Because if I then copy and paste it to Word and I remove all the formatting, is the watermark still in the text? I don't know if that's the case. There are tools available that allows you to determine whether an article has been written by a bot. Because it uses servers the way it is written. Whether that's still the case with ChatGPT, I don't know if those technologies still work. Because the other day I have such a tool on my website, on dataflog.com, and I uploaded a piece of content, a summary of an article, and the summary was written by ChatGPT. And it gave the perfect score. So, it's I'm not sure how good it is, but I completely agree. There will be, a lot of online marketing bureaus are going to use this technology to create really low quality content, really fast in order to do link building. I think that's a really bad development, and hopefully Google will punish that, because it doesn't make sense. What's the point of it? People will use this to create even more content than we already have, and it becomes even more difficult to find the good content, and instead of being flooded by AI generated content.
Yes, and I'm already seeing the impacts now. And you also touched upon education, where people are using it for delivering essays and other stuff, etc. How fast do you think the impacts will become visible this year, also with advent of ChatGPT 4? Do you think it goes with the same speed as it has been going as the past month, or do you think it's just the initial response from the public eye and playing around? And what do you think?
Well, I think it will only go faster because everyone is building on top of each other, and so.
Are they? What do you mean by building? Do you mean like experimenting, like how to create content and think stuff through and interact with ChatGPT, or are you really talking about developing or creating specific kind of applications?
Yeah, the latter. There's a lot of people are building applications on top of these technologies, and if I see a technology that let's say I'm a developer and I see a solution that's really interesting, I can use that as an example to build another solution. So everyone is building on top of each other. Everyone benefits from each other, and now that we have this technology, we can it becomes even faster to create. The other today I saw a post on LinkedIn how to create a Chrome extension with ChatGPT in 15 minutes. That used to be quite a bit of work, creating a Chrome extension. Whether it's good or bad, a Chrome extension that you create with ChatGPT is something else. But the fact that you can do it is extraordinary. So the developments will go faster and faster.
Yeah, and I think with the example you just painted, it becomes evident that it accelerates everything that we are doing, like 10x, 5x, 2x, like tremendously. So if you have a spectrum, you have like, I just read a book, Live 3.0, highly recommend, by the way, also by Elon Musk, if you want to learn more about AI. He says you have like techno skepticals and you have like techno utopists, and one on the spectrum is like AI is great for everything, and the skepticals are like, no, it will make 90% of the jobs obsolete and lead to massive depression and no sense of self-worth, what we are doing. If you look at the spectrum, where are you in this spectrum? What do you think?
I think I'm halfway because I can see all the positive sides. I can also see all the negative sides, and I sort of balance that. And I hope we end up in the positive spectrum, but we might very well end up in the negative spectrum. But I can sort of see and understand both worlds, and I think that helps me, and it helps those organizations that I help. They can benefit from that because you get a broader perspective of what does this actually mean, this technology that we're talking about. What is generative AI, and how is it going to affect my business? Is it going to be positive? Is it going to be negative? And how do I deal with that? So from that perspective, I think that I am sort of halfway, and I try to have this balanced view, of this independent view of what does this mean, and how is it going to affect your business? How can we use it in such a way that it is beneficial to your business, but also to society in general?
And if you have to make the biggest positive case for AI, and then not only from an entrepreneurship perspective, but also from an employee perspective, because from an entrepreneurship perspective or a business owner or investor perspective, I can see only upsides because it's accelerating everything. Simultaneously, the competitors will also use it. So then the question is, how can you differentiate yourself? But from an employee perspective, I would really rethink and question like, okay, I have like 10 kind of different activities that I'm doing on a daily basis. Let's look at what, and a lot of that, if we are talking about knowledge working, is analyzing, retrieving information, putting it into context, transferring that information, and a lot of that, ChatGPT is able to do that 10 times quickly, faster, and with a whole bunch of computation power and access to more data than we have. So as an employee, I would be worried, but an investor, I would think, okay, if I am, for example, a lawyer company, and I want to defend a particular case. Now I can use ChatGPT. Okay, research like 40 different cases in this scenario. What were the best arguments against that, and what were the worst arguments against that, and then reiterate. Well, a lawyer has to take hours of research into the history and putting it into context. So there you can already see a massive paradigm shift in terms of efficiency. What do you think from the employer case and from the investor / entrepreneurial case?
Well, look, I think from a business owner perspective, this is generally going to take off, and we can already see it happening because a lot of organizations struggle to find the right employees, so they move to technology to replace those employees, and a job replaced by technology will not really quickly come back. So you can already see that happening, and in the end, we live in a capitalist society. So if you can find that tool that will save you money and give you more efficiency and give you more production for less money, then obviously you're going to do that.
Yeah.
Now, from an employee perspective, I think you should also use technology to make sure that you perform better. You should use AI because in the end, AI will beat humans, but humans working with AI will beat AI. So, so the collaboration between humans and AI is where I think the future lies. So, as an employee, you should not be afraid to understand and to use AI. It might make your current job, you don't need to do your job anymore, but that doesn't mean you're going to lose your job. It's going to mean that you can do more stuff in the same time that you could do before. And for any employee, I would recommend to embrace these kind of technologies because it will help you become a better employee with technology.
Yeah, I think that's a very powerful quote. Humans working with AI will be better than the humans working without AI instead of competing with AI. Being aware of time, just the last question, Mark. Education is really close to my heart, and I think it's still very valuable in the era that we are in. Simultaneously, I see some challenges for creativity and critical thinking because I can kind of outsource that now to ChatGPT, and as we have seen with social media as well, if we have access to these tools, we will use it. So it becomes kind of comfortable, and I think the reason why we are at school is to develop ourselves, to socialize with people, to acquire certain skills. But now, as you say, the way we tested, the way we developed ourselves was very 90th century-ish, if you will. And now this can become obsolete by the rise of ChatGPT. How do you think school institutions and universities, etc., will have to reinvent themselves to stay relevant with these new technological trends?
Well, obviously, education has to change. We have to think differently at how we educate the next generation, because these technologies are out there and the children are going to use these technologies, and they will always find better ways to use these technologies than teachers can prevent them from using them. And I also think it doesn't make sense to prevent them from using it, because it is the future. So you better teach them how to use them than to prevent them from using it, or using it in ways that are detrimental to society. So we have to embrace, we have to disrupt education. We have to look at education from a different perspective, because otherwise, children are going to use this technology for everything that they can, and they can already. And personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with. We should just teach them how to use that. Just like when Wikipedia arrived, Wikipedia was the baddest, the worst platform to go to. But nowadays we can see that generally Wikipedia is quite okay, and you can use it. And so it requires a different way of thinking, a different way of obtaining knowledge. If all the knowledge in the world can be accessed just with a simple prompt, then there's not necessarily a necessity anymore to learn all that knowledge in the world, because you just have access to it. But then we need to learn how to deal with having access to all that knowledge, which is a completely different way of working, and something that I think also schools need to reinvent themselves, and they have to think differently, because yes, you're correct. Schools still operate like it is the 1920s. Where we educate people to work in factories at conveyor belts. Hello, the world has changed. And so we need to wake up, and schools need to wake up, and because otherwise, children will find their own knowledge, and that might be in a different way and not necessarily the best way.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing your perspectives on this really recent developments. And also, what you just said made me think about a potential new profession, which could be prompt engineer or something, because I can imagine that humans that are superior in interacting with these AI applications will be standing out from people who are less capable
100%.
of interacting with them, because the knowledge they retrieve is far better than people that are not able to do that. So just a side note there. But thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mark. Really look forward to your developments. I understood you are also gonna develop a new podcast, which also includes and embeds this topic. So really look forward to that. What's going to be the name of the podcast, and when will it approximately start?
Yeah, so the name of the podcast is Our Synthetic Future. So it's everything related to synthetic stuff, synthetic media, synthetic data, synthetic humans, synthetic biology, synthetic thoughts, synthetic society, whatever you can think of. It probably will launch in the next 1 or 2 months. And there will be some interesting gimmicks, interesting synthetic gimmicks involved in this.
Okay, well, that sounds really interesting. Well, really looking forward to that, and let's stay in touch, and perhaps we run it then at your podcast again.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Samir.